Hello guys and welcome back to that channel. No, it's been a little bit, but 5 days ain't that bad. Before I do begin this, I do want to give out some news. I am leaving once again. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I have approximately 3 days, or 4 days, depending on how you look at it, to get my affairs in order and leave. To where, again, can't tell you. You know, military and all that. But I will try my best to give out as many of the what ifs as I can. Even if, I'm gonna definitely finish the UG New Order. I'm just trying to figure out how to finish the series while also, going into a little bit of JJK modulo. Do a little epilogue. I'm saying, but yeah, sorry about that. I'm going to be leaving again. This time I actually don't know for how long, so expect to be waiting for a month and more. Really apologize. Once I get back, I mean, on the way, like on during work, I'll be thinking about ideas, writing scripts, and when I get back, then I can implement them as fast as possible. But uh, bear with me, bear with me. But without any further ado, let's get right into the sixth part of this series. Now, the last time we ended this, Yami and Jack headed into the palace and told the bulls to join them after. So after getting their bearings, some of the bulls enter, that being Asta, Mimosa, and Noel. Well, Mimosa's not a bull, but yeah. The others stay to guard against the elves who will be coming towards the gate because they don't want more enemies to go in there and make things harder for them. But as they enter, they're split up. Asta would catch Mimosa with his telekinesis while they're falling. And within the area they find themselves, they see that it's very similar to the Gravito Belt. They land safely on a piece of rock that's just floating about, and Asta, with his acute senses, says that everyone is scattered, and this was intentional, done by the people who obviously made this place, to confuse them. Mimosa quickly creates a map with her magic, and they determine that they'll get closer to the leader of the elves at the top and just meet the people they need to take care of at the top, because it seems that they're on the very lower levels right now. As he rises into the air, Asta carries Mimosa on his pillow that he summons, and they're flying up, and Mimosa says, "Sorry about this." "What, the invasion? How was that your fault?" "I meant the pillow." "Oh, it's fine, I can fly." Mimosa, however, wouldn't say that it's hard to not feel guilty about all this because, this is her ancestors doing that caused all this. All this is happening because they were greedy. Asta, however, says that the faults of their elders are not their own. All they can try to do is do right by their own principles. And obviously, they don't know the whole story behind this. They still need to find out more. So, for all she knows, maybe this whole thing was twisted. But regardless, they're going to do what they can. Not worry about what they can't do. Just then, as they go through a hole, that's how they get to the next floors in this place, in case y'all haven't seen this in a while, because I haven't seen this arc in a while. They go through the hole, and immediately, as they reach another floor, from all sides, they have 10 different elements, spells thrown at them at light speed. As time slowly comes to a stop for Asta, he looks up seeing Lyra, who had possessed Rill. He had a look of worry, and Asta smiles. As time resumes, all the painted magics that are thrown their way are literally destroyed, just turned away, just blown away. And Asta's wings would flap, and in a blink he appears before the elf, elbowing him in the chest, and he nearly hurls out his lunch, and is then thrown over the fairy's shoulder downwards to be caught by vines. Just what is this, human? Every element which he threw had been ready for a while, by the way. They ready to, make their spell even more compound. He was gathering mana in the air, and it still didn't do anything. The elves realized that they have to make some sacrifices during this time. Asta was simply too strong, so the least they could do was stall him until their plans really came to action. Then, as he's being held up by vines, through his back, the sword of Harlequin would pierce and destroy the spell of reincarnation. Meanwhile, Marileona started fighting Veto. Yeah, she entered a while ago. Fuegoleon was facing Kaiser, who's the dude that can, use air magic and has the funny little mustache. And Noella caught up with Fauna, who has been resurrected, but she does go a little easier on Noelle because she is starting to feel sympathy since her and Asta's little last encounter. Because Asta helped her out of that misery, she's kind of feeling a bit conflicted about humans now. As for Mereoleona and Fugolion, while they're fighting, they mostly win because of their rivalry as siblings. You know, they want to push each other to be better. Mereoleona does not want to lose to her little bro, and Fugolion wants to match his sister's standards. Now on the outside, by that point, Yuno had returned, and with him came some mages that he happened to help along the way. His necklace reacts to the portal, and he heads in, while Charmy was hanging on to him because, you know, she obsessed with her footprints or whatever. But this time, when she goes to where Asta and Mimosa would have been because it got split up, there's no, you know, unconscious rail taken over by Lyra for her to fight and unlock her, you know, her true form. So she just stays there until he wakes up, and eventually they're going to go up together. You know, though, obviously, he was sent straight to the top where he met Roan, Paltry, and Raya. They made him come here because they needed his pendant, but with his new awakening in power, Yuno doesn't just impress them in this timeline, he nearly overwhelms them with his genius. But in the end, the pendant is still stolen by Roan. He slides back and sees the pendant in the elf's hand, and he's left pissed because he remembers the memories connected to that necklace. I mean, in the pendant specifically, Asta fought to protect it when they were kids. Give that back right now. Raya would sigh, saying, damn, you pack a punch. But nice one, Roan. Of course, with this, we can finally end this whole charade. Get rid of these humans. But, as I've said before, Raya can detect lies. Why did Roan just lie to him just now? Because he definitely felt like he lied. When he asks his fellow elf about this, he doesn't answer, and something starts to feel off. Before they knew it, Roan blew a hole through Raya. Now Paltry is horrified as he runs to his side and asks what the hell Roan is doing. Oh, shut up. I'm doing what I've been planning. Possessing this body was hard, you know? It was hard work. Whoever incarnated within this body of this human that got possessed by an elf, well, it wasn't a normal person by any means, clearly. As he walks up to the stone tablet that they activated, the elf would plant the stolen stone from Yuno. And this whole ritual, all that it was never meant for the elves, obviously, as we know. From the tablet, or, you know, the stone tablet, whatever it is, it's on the floor. What is summoned is this bizarre entity which snatches the soul within Roan's body and takes place, and it begins to manifest. It's as if everyone felt this shiver, this indescribable pit in their stomach. In legends, it is told that devils used to be a thing, but it was just a tale to keep children in check. But devils were said to be malevolent creatures who embodied evil. Well, that's a myth, but it's not a myth no more. The first devil to ever manifest and show themselves, because he's not the first devil to manifest, within 100 years, appears before everyone. Zagrid has finally arrived on the scene. And, you know, obviously, you know, questions like, this dude is a devil, right? It feels good to be back. I mean, all this work just to make this happen. You did great, Paltry. What are you talking about? He reveals that none of this was truly ever his plan. It was his plan. Zagrid obviously made all of this happen. And after learning the truth that this spell was just a ploy for a devil to come back, he loses it. But honestly, bro, it's called the Underworld Gate. What the fuck were you expecting? Seriously, who's the idiot who... Never mind. Now, he attacks him, unable to accept this, but his light attacks are simply thrown back at him. Yuno moves in using his spell of the Dance of the Spirit to save him and push him behind. Don't you dare endanger that body. It still belongs to Captain Von Johns. And you. Yeah, sorry, kid. I don't got time for you. I got work. Well, too bad. A spirit storm is fired from behind the devil, but by just saying the word vacuum wall, he warps the attack to nothing and leaves Yuno completely shocked. Even after his power-up, it's not enough. But right on cue, the fairy makes his entrance through his looking glass. Now, if you don't remember what the looking glass is, it's a spell that he used when the kids got kidnapped in the cave. I'm going to use it a lot during this arc and afterwards because I haven't used it enough. And also, I may have changed the wording for it. If it's not looking glass, please remind me. But he uses that spell to basically use his mana, his acute senses, to detect people and then create a portal to there. This is a combination of using Oslo's power with his, because Oslo can create portals. Now, he comes with Mimosa and he catches everyone's attention. Late as always, Asta. I was held up. Suddenly, then his mind starts to, go kind of crazy. It was just for a moment, but he felt an immense amount of malice from this creature in front of him, this devil. Mimosa also cannot believe what she's seeing, but it's clear that he's got to be destroyed. However, Zagrid has other plans. He calls for Paltry to his side using his magic and then skewers him with the black spears. Immediately, the two brothers move in, but as they near him, Zagrid calls down a storm of blades. Petrify. As Asta says this, he fires up his own storm of weapons, which turn his swords, Zagrid's swords, to stone, before using his voice strike and punching the air, which then sends the devil flying as he spews some blood from his mouth. Honestly, he's a bit impressed, but he just stops himself before he hits a wall and begins to laugh. He sees them flying to free Paltry, but they can't do that. So before they reach him, they fall to the floor and they're crushed, flattened. With every curse he could utter, Zagrid pushed them through the floor and aimed to kill them, obviously, and then he flew to Paltry. Now Mimosa is obviously scared out of her mind. All that she has is Asta's pillow to protect her. However, she also knows that Asta's magic innately allows him to, diminish the power of spells, so they should be fine. And luckily, Zagrid doesn't care about her right now. He takes the pleasure in revealing the truth to Paltry, that obviously he made the elves reincarnate. The genocide by the humans, all that despair, he made it all happen, and it sends Paltry into despair. I mean, it's so fun to play with you guys. You make it so easy too. Elves, humans, you're not so different, Just then, they all feel an enormous amount of magic welling up as Asta and Yuno fly back up. Their magic rages through the air, and Raya wonders if Yuno had fully awakened because his magic felt very similar to Lick's. You talk too much, says Asta. Yuno agrees, saying, there's no way we lose to some scumbag like you. While Yuno's magic begins to warp the air around him due to his innate wind magic, Asta's magic begins to change in a way the elves, Mimosa, or Yuno, especially Yuno, because he's lived with them his entire life, has never seen before. Asta could usually slowly whittle down spells to nothing in an instant, but this time, somehow, the magic in the air began to literally be destroyed when nearing him. In a flash, the boy appears before Zagrid, who shouts block, only to be cleaved into by Harlequin, much to he and everyone's shock. He's the first person to deal a savage actual blow on him, but he creates a vine which then grabs the devil from behind and throws him into the air to be hit by a spirit storm. And Zagrid thinks, how is he doing that? Using the vacuum command, he dissipates Yuno's attack, but he is still struck by a bit of the wind, much to his own confusion. Yuno wasn't able to affect him a few seconds ago. What the hell going on? Then he hears sunflower. As Asta shouts this, he creates a bunch of sunflowers that seep in from every crack in this room, and they're basically surrounding every corner, they're everywhere, and they ready beams of light that fire on the devil. He simply shouts stop, and they freeze though. Interesting magic, but that's not gonna be enough. Come on. But Asta just shouts, and at the top of his lungs, he would cover his light spears with this crimson red energy, and in a flash, they move and pierce through the devil. With Disaster assisting, this dealt far more damage with 50% more efficacy. And Zagrid is literally mashed right now. Raya wonders what the hell is happening. Is he ignoring magic somehow? His Disaster shouldn't be that strong. I should know. After having seen Asta's magic and then, used it himself, he thought that there was obviously a limit to it. He can only diminish and amplify spells. He can't destroy spells outright. That's not how it works. It just seems that way because he does it so masterfully. Asta's eyes become seemingly empty as he enters this kind of, Zen-like state. He's just focused on battle right now. And Zagrid is only amused though. He heals like nothing happened. But he does notice that a part of his arm just wouldn't close up, and he gets annoyed. Now he really needs to hurry. He appears before Paltry, and it was time to collect his due. With all this despair that, Paltry was feeling, he created a 5-leaf grimoire, which Zagrid then reaches and grabs. But then his arm, which has yet to be fully rebuilt, is grabbed. Looking up, he sees Asta, whose pupils had turned to sort of like stars, like a cross shape. Well, aren't you revved up? But seriously, I'm busy. Get crushed. As he winces in pain, Asta is sent flying and slams into a wall, but he still feels the press trying to crush his insides, and yet He had this intensely focused look. The magic trying to keep him down kept slowly being erased until it was just gone. But he starts to fall into his own mind. He felt the same as it was the same as when he fought Fauna, for example. Flies to him, and Mimosa does as well on the pillow. Both of them ask if he's okay, but he's just, he's not responsive. Then they feel an explosion of negative energy. Behind, they see that Zagrid is gone now, but in his place, Paltry now had a dark elf form, and he was ready for round 2. Mimosa, stay with him. She says yes, of course, and goes to face Paltry. And Asta has fully dissipated the magic, but now he was just stuck in his own mind, as I said before. So while he's stuck in his mind, Nozel arrives to help and actually bodies Paltry, which is a pretty cool moment. Now that I look back at it, I mean, Nozel still fucking sucks. Like, dude, you really did not have to bully your little sister. No one told you to do that. No curse made you do that. But he still came in clutch, I'm saying. And Mimosa also brought Raya over so she could heal him and tried to help Asta on the side, which is a very, big moment for Raya because she kind of sees, Lick's wife in her. She got the same kind of energy. She's very kind to everyone. Now, what is Asta seeing? All right, so let's dive into his mind. He sees an endless white space, and before him is Oslo, floating somehow. And Oslo speaks for the first time, saying, "Took you long enough. Oslo, you can talk? Okay, let's take this slow. I'm awesome, and I've been waiting for this. For that? Waiting for what? The devils. I mean, I didn't get to break through until I had a reason. I guess that's probably why I only came now, but I'll make this easy. Just read my heart. Today is just going to keep getting weirder and weirder, isn't it?" Yep. As he closes his eyes and he enters Oslo's memories, he uncovers the hidden parts of his past. Let's go into the backstory now. First off, that isn't Oslo. That's Libe, obviously. Now, how does this make sense? Let me explain it to you. So, in this version of events, before Asta was even born, the spirit Drayd had showed itself to Lichita. The spirit Drayd is a guardian of Elysia, which is where the elves originally lived, and we find that out later. But if this is a spoiler, I mean, I was going to go into spoiler territory. I mean, I cover everything. But yeah, that spirit showed itself to Lichita as she saw a prophecy, because Drayd can see the future of the boy growing up to change the world. So she wanted to help him with that, because the way things were going right now, Lichita was going to steal all his magic and basically curse him in a way. And the blessing simply allowed him to be part, of her kind of brigade. He basically became half fairy, but she didn't expect it to get that strong. You see, the power to control life and death is what Drayd has in this version of events. I basically made her the spirit tree from Nanatsu no Taizai. But as Asta came into his own magic, the power that he was given through the blessing became disaster. Asta was born and stayed with Lichita for a while, actually. While he was a baby, Lichita found Libe, and as a result, the two became close. Now, Asta never obviously remembered his face, but whenever, Asta was giggling, it was because Libe was around, because they were close like that. Then Lucifer had to come in and, ruin that shit, and after killing Lichita, Asta's blessing gave birth to Oslo because of his grief, and Oslo sealed Libe within himself. Oslo was basically just a shell of a creation that Asta made to protect Libe in that moment of needing to protect a part of his family that was still living. He was a baby, completely did not know, and he was still doing his shit. Now, the hound, Oslo, took Asta to the orphanage, and that's how they found Asta at the orphanage. Now, within the stomach of Oslo, Libe went down a different evolution. Yes, he felt hate, but his consciousness melded with Oslo, who was the guardian that was supposed to stay with Asta, created consciously, like I said, but he actually started to gain a sort of ego. So he became Oslo, and he got to look after Asta this entire time. So he ended up mutating into a different life form. He didn't get his anti-magic in the same form. It wasn't born of grief, but from love, obviously. And this is because Asta's magic was continuously changing him, because he basically lived in his grimoire all the time. Boom. Now, Asta's eyes open, and there's this flash of bright light that takes everyone's attention as he rose into the air. This air came from, his grimoire, which had erupted from it, Oslo. Oslo would then shave away his old form and become a mix of human and dog, or a hound, if you want to say it that way. He kind of looks like a werewolf, but tiny, like Belle. And, thinks, there's no way. A spirit? Asked Mimosa. As he opens his eyes, Libe would, just smile and look up at Asta because it's been a while. And Asta smiles too and says, I really did take too long. Big bro forgives you. I mean, as long as you promise to destroy that devil, though. Agreed. Guys, what's going on? Libe's eyes would glow red for a moment, and then Asta's do as well. And he says that he understands the entire situation. As he steps forward with the wave of his hand, he puts his pollen garden around Raya, who heals instantly. Mimosa had trouble for some reason healing him. Maybe it was due to the devil's magic, but Asta's disaster easily bypasses it. And as he walks to Nozelle's side, he looks at the, spirit. Nozelle looks at the spirit like everyone else, which Asta still hadn't explained. So you remember, he's like, oh, right, guys, formerly Oslo, he's now Libe. Say hello to the spirit of nature. They're all kind of shocked to hear this because, after all, there are only 4 known main spirits. But Libe's power clearly is similar to Belle's. Belle even tells as much inside of his head, but instead of being down, he's obviously proud of his rival because, hey, if he's gonna have a spirit and Asta gets a spirit, perfect matchup, nigga. Equivalent exchange. Asta says that because Libe read their minds, he understood what happened because Libe also beamed it to his mind. That's why his eyes glowed. He can do that now. Just casually do that. He has basically attained perfect control or telepathy. He can just do that shit and use it in ways you never thought possible. Now, after, telling them that killing Paltry isn't the right answer because he can get him back quite easily, his pollen garden would break and drop Raya, and everyone gets on guard. But he raises his hand saying, hey, the truth's out. It'd be stupid to fight you guys again. Besides, that monstrous kid got even more scary. Meanwhile, Asta would touch Paltry on the head and he uses outer voice to enter his mind and convince him to come back because the fight is not yet over. And he does it very easily in this timeline because Asta dominates the mind. He's half fairy. He don't get swept up like that. And he's pretty much normal after that. When Paltry comes back, he's a pretty normal looking elf, minus one of his eyes being black. And Raya isn't even surprised anymore. Neither is Paltry. The boy who they once saw as an enemy now became a sort of guiding light. It's a very bizarre, bait and switch. And he says, I want to make up for what I did. Will you help me? Gladly. But Paltry, upon seeing Libe actually, for a moment, he takes a double take. He kind of looks surprised and then he bows and everyone is just confused. But Raya says, okay, I know we're working together, but you don't have to. Don't you feel it, Raya? That spirit, he's an envoy of the Dryad. The Dryad. Raya is completely shocked and bows too, and everyone is just confused. But Asta says to stand because he's grateful to the Dryad, my bad, because obviously the Dryad saved his life and gave him magic, but he and Libe are not hurt. You don't gotta do that. Okay, seriously, what the hell is going on, Asta? Explain, says Now Asta explains that the spirit of nature, the Dryad, which resided in the forest of elves, saved him when he was a baby, and as a result of her blessing, it impacted his magic, and his magic changed Libe. But he doesn't really know anything about his, his past nature. He says that, Libe just came to be. He lies about it. He don't want to say that Libe is a devil. That's all I'm trying to say. If he lets them know that, then that ruins Libe's life. And even if, telling the truth or whatever the fuck is a good thing. Nah, nigga. He's a spirit now. You don't got to say nothing else about him being a devil. What'd you do that for? Now, by the way, up above, while trying to escape, Zagrid met Licht, who gives him the fucking works. He doesn't defeat him because Zagrid also has a grimoire now, but damn, he makes him work for it. Because, like I said, Licht has his grimoire in this version of events. Asta doesn't take his. Yami and the incarnated Charlotte also joined in the fight, and in the meantime, Nero found Finral and asked him to, take her the demon skull. And Finral obviously is like, hey, yo, you a bird and you can talk, but also finds out, hey, yo, you a bird and you a human girl? You kind of fine. He don't try to say nothing, but he definitely tried to get at Nero. Did not work. Anyway, Asta and everyone is ready to go up for Zagrid. And through the hole from above that they're about to fly through, they see this bizarre mass of disgusting magic, which just made their skin crawl. In any normal situation, it'd be easy to avoid them, but they not only plugged up the hole, but filled the entire area from the top up, and it started dropping. You know, Raya and Paltry fired the strongest spells at this mass, but it's all absorbed and destroyed, leaving them in complete horror. They're about to die. But Asta steps forward as he and Libe explode with black lightning. Spirit magic. Harlequin. A massive, gigantic sword, and I'm talking about bigger than the Black Divider, appears. And it's red and black, like mostly red. And it begins to spin and fires up and erases the mask with ease and destroys a part of this makeshift dungeon. But some pieces of the stuff drops down and accidentally touches Paltry, and he nearly feels his skin peel off. So Asta notices and keeps the sword rotating and rising higher and higher through the tunnel until, he asks Mimosa to check out the area. So she shows them a map, and they see where this is all coming from the very, very top. And upon seeing it, Asta sees the source of the magic, but also notices the signatures of Rill and Charmy downstairs ever so faintly. The others are mostly safe because, Marileona is like that, and Veto is like that. The rest of them will be fine, but, specifically them two, they're kind of vulnerable right now. So he would drop everyone through his looking glass while he himself jumps through another one and goes to save Rill and Charmy. As he falls down, he sees the two having stopped a level above where they were, and they were eating. Oh, Asta, you made it. They immediately they notice the immense power he has with them, Dad being Libe and his own rising power, but Asta says they don't have time for that. And he says they need to come with him. He pulls them up to his side and he looks up at the looking glass, and its designation spot or landing area changes in front of them, and they fly through and find themselves seeing something hard to even believe. And Rill's like, is that the first Wizard King? Like, what the fuck? And is that a devil? What is going on? Also, Lumiere arrived a few moments ago, and he began engaging in battle and shit. He and Paltry and Riot kept the devil busy. Meanwhile, Zagrid went to unseal the mind of Licht, who for some reason flew to Yuno. Like, he did it by instinct. He was just looking at him like he knew him somehow. So Asta and the others landed over there. And as his mind is unsealed, the assault on the devil continues while Lumiere stops and he flies to Licht. And they've been waiting for 500 years to say this, but, they just say thank you because they were both put in a very tight spot, and despite it, they still kept their friendship, and they're just very grateful to be here. Then flies to, no, he doesn't fly to him. Asta's right there. So he asks Asta if he's ready to go, and Asta says obviously, and tells Libe that it's time. With a nod, Libe enters Asta's body and induces Spirit Dive, which is surprising for everyone except Licht and Lumiere. That's because he literally just got the spirit, but they don't know that he just got this. Licht knows that he didn't just get the spirit, but he felt the advent of something familiar. Lumiere is just like, hey, yo, he got a spirit? That's kind of cool. And now he and the spirit are so synchronized, but they're wondering how the hell is, how are they so synchronized? They basically just met. But says, nah, if Libe used to be Oslo, then it makes a lot of sense because they hung out everywhere. I didn't show that enough, but they hung out everywhere. Now clad in spiritual energy, Asta gains a crown of vines and a spear. His wings turned transparent and basically became magic itself, but they still could flap and all that. The fighting stops as this new power rises, and everyone regroups with Lumiere asking Zagrid who Asta was. He's a child from Hodge. He's incredibly lazy. Hey, words hurt, but Nero, is that you? You're a girl, I knew it. He's also the only way we can win this. When it comes to magic, he's a monster. Now that Asta takes in stride, and he tells them that he's going to use a new spell, but he needs a bit of time to build it up. So they need to keep this devil guessing until then. So they trust him and they attack. With his increase in power, Asta attacks now would nullify magic itself, like destroy it. And it's applied to each form of it. He can, it can be any type of magic. He'll just destroy it. It don't matter. He will destroy it. That's anti-magic now. But he can still summon his other spirit forms with the spear he has. And His magic is just it's just different. I'm gonna have to show y'all. So he channels the ability of each form with greater power now. That's all y'all need to know for now. Raya and Paltry, try as they might, begin to lose footing against the devil, so they're incapacitated soon. That just leaves Licht and Lumiere, Asta, and the quad you want to bet on. But Zagrid has, injuries that refuse to be closed. And that same one that he got from Asta on his arm is still not closing, and it's actually opening bigger. He couldn't believe it. How could a mere fairy hurt him? Now he's surrounded by them, and he creates the Spear of the End. Well, not spear, the Trident. Is that what it was called? The Trident of the End? It's a really OP weapon, now looking back at it. So he creates the Trident, and Lumiere attacks only to have his arm shattered along with his conjured Sword of Light. He then whips the Wizard King back with a swipe of his tail, when Licht's sword then finds itself at his throat. Now this attack basically sliced through air itself, basically distorting the mana around them. But Zagrid's Trident, I almost messed that up. Halberd's, fuck. A halberd is a type of spear. Fuck. Okay, so Zagrid's Trident reduced the damage to nothing. All the built up momentum, the attack got destroyed, and then he shouted, weaken. Licht feels his magic sap, and then Asta yanks him out of the way before he gets hit and would thrust with his spear. Zagrid responds to this by flying back a bit and clashing his trident with the spear, but the spear that he thought would be destroyed with ease, because this trident of his basically destroys any type of thing it comes in contact with. Yeah, that trident is destroyed instead, and he starts to lose it. But Asta then swung up, unleashing an explosion of blades from below, which just nullified all magic. Everything he has, if he wants to, he can apply the effect of destroying magic on it. Then he told everyone that he was nearly done gathering this power, so to speak, and Zagrid heard this and was wondering what the hell he's trying to do. So, takes to the sky and conjures Zephyr, and pierces the devil where its heart should be. But like every other attack, it missed, and he tells to weaken as well, before almost stabbing him in the stomach with his trident. A shield of light blocks this and shatters as is flung nearly into a wall just from the leftover force of the attack, but he's caught by a giant hand drawn by Rill. He thanks the captain and looks to see Asta and the devil now engaged in battle, and he realized, like everyone else, I can't enter this battle anymore. These two were going so fast that it went beyond the power of light speed. They were just untraceable. Asta had been the reason why any of them didn't take any fatal damage up to this point. I didn't go into detail, but they've been pretty hard on this battle. They've been going ham. And everything they got hit by, well, he made sure they didn't die immediately. But now he was focusing all that power on himself again, so he became even stronger. Zagrid's trident would strike Asta in the chest, but he doesn't even budge. No puncture, no nothing. And he legit starts to get scared. Like, how the hell are you doing this? Before he finished whatever he was about to say, whatever he was about to ramble, he struck down into the creatures he summoned, and he turned to mush when he hit them, and then turned those creatures to mush. He basically exploded them with the force that he carried from that attack. That says a lot. He winces in pain and looks up, seeing the Guardian, the bear, which opens its mouth and fires a sunflower blast. As the attack nears him, he shouts stop, but Asta smiles, saying that that's not going to work anymore. The Looking Glass is summoned right before the blast, taking the attack, and another Looking Glass appears below the devil on the floor and lets the attack hit him. Never thought that he'd be able to use his magic in this way. It's like Asta began to mix every form of the spear that he ever learned together. And he was. But he and Zagrid were moving again so fast that none of them wanted to interfere. They didn't want to mess up his flow. But he was also telling them telepathically he had this. It was more than even that though. Asta could literally hear and predict all of Zagrid's actions now with his star-crossed eyes. So they're called the Spirit Eyes. His heart reading becomes precognition, there we go, allowing him to read the mind of his opponent essentially and give him a predicted action through his eyes, which he then dodges. It can be any type of spell, it doesn't matter. He will read the future essentially by amplifying it with his disaster. His Guardian would be set ablaze by black flames all of a sudden, from Zagrid obviously, but Asta quickly unsummons it, seeing that behind the bear was Zagrid, struggling to regenerate. So he created the flame around the Guardian to also hide while it was being destroyed. But yeah, no. And Asta tells him, you can feel it, can't you? Your wounds just won't close up. Actually, they're growing a little bit wider, aren't they? Took me a while because your body is so tough, but you could feel it. Every attack that was landed on you by everybody, every blast, every spell, it's catching up. Now everyone realizes what he was building up to. Zagrid realizes he's been tricked. Asta wasn't building up a massive spell or something. He has been working with the spell he said he was using at the end this entire time. It was a continuous spell which was destroying his body. And Lumiere says, what ridiculous magic. How can he do such a thing? I mean, the devil's wounds, they're not stopping, they're opening up. Zagrid, or Nera, whatever you want to call her, while trying to stop Lumiere's deterioration and heal his arm, says that Asta has the ability to amplify damage or nullify it to nothing. But it doesn't just apply to attacks, it seems. He can make spells stronger or weaker against himself or his allies, or make his own spells stronger against enemies. And upon hearing this, the Wizard King wonders just what miracle he's witnessing, because with his next attack, Asta riddles Zagrid with petrification daggers from all over. And the devil doesn't want to let this happen. He tries to make himself reform, but Asta shouts Monozone. This stops and completely nullifies his spell while amplifying his own. As he and the devil would face off for the last time, basically having a battle of, what's it called, of will, because, you know, people get serious in Black Clover, their aura takes shape or whatever the hell. The devil just slowly turned to stone because his body has deteriorated. It cannot hold up anymore because of Asta. And the human, well, the fairy, leaves him with these words: anyone who comes after you will face a fate far worse. He snaps and shatters the stone with his telekinesis and destroys the devil once and for all. They won. They really won. For years, Licht, Lumiere, Zagrid, their fates have been bound together all for this one thing. So to finally see the cycle of hatred end, it just from the bottom of their hearts, they can only say thank you. And Zagrid nearly breaks into tears. Actually, she kind of does. Asta and Libe separate, fist bumping, but the palace was beginning to crumble and break apart. Same as the original. Everyone escapes because of the integrity of the place, and using a spell and Asta's help, Licht and Lumiere use a beacon of light to tell everyone else in the palace where to gather. Lumiere also moves in the direction he's basically leading them out. I don't want to complicate things. People might be enemies like right now, but they need to be alive to fight again, so they focus on that. But the fight with the devil drained most of them, except for Asta, most notably Lumiere, whose stone body has begun to crumble again, even though Zagrid tried to mend it. His crystal eye falls out, and everyone flying for the exit sees the light surrounding and guiding them getting weaker, because obviously Lumiere's getting weaker. But Valtos comes in clutch, and he and Rades, they entered a while after did. They just hid. But it also means that, like in the original, they heard about Zagrid's reveal about the elves, so they know that Licht, Paltry, who tricked them, is still a bad person, but he was also being manipulated. Regardless, they exit the palace safely with no one lost. But even after all of that, when they come out of the palace and they see the kingdom, though Asta's tree was still present and helping the Clover Kingdom and all that, it didn't mean that the fighting stopped between the elves. Obviously, the other elves didn't hear about what's the truth. They're raging and were still going crazy, destroying the area. The capital was being completely ruined. It was a terrible sight, and this is when Paltry sees it fit for him to finally atone. So he asks Asta to stop his reincarnation. With you, Paltry, and William, we can connect to the elves. Tell them the truth. Rades is very unhappy about this. Even if Paltry was used, this doesn't stop that need for revenge he has. He feels cheated, as he should, honestly. But dude, you almost killed a little girl. You are not in the right here. So Asta breaks the reincarnation spell, returning William Von Johns to the scene. And this being the first time everyone except Yami has seen his true face, they're a bit caught off guard. And Paltry, now knowing that he would have to step back, gives last few words to William, which are very obviously cared for because they share the same body. He thought that Paltry was gone forever, and William had to finish the job that Paltry gave him. So he looks to Asta and Licht and asks for help. Then the two step beside him, and Asta holds his hand towards the spirit tree and asks Libe to help him too. "Is that a spirit?" asked William. It's a long story. As Libe says this, they combine their magic, and the tree transforms, becoming light itself and firing rays, which gives the truth to the tortured souls of the elves, and this also pulls them out of their vessels towards the tree to finally put them to rest. This gives form to the soul of Paltry before everyone, and he shows up for the last time. And since Fauna, Veto, and Raya's bodies are artificial and not human, they don't need to go. The spell doesn't target them. They're going to be staying. And they realize that this is the last time they will see one another. So they say goodbye to Paltry. And Lick thanks Yuno for allowing him to fight alongside his son, as weird as that might be. You mean, yes, you hold his soul. Thank you for taking care of him, and please continue to. Nozel thinks that, it's no wonder Yuno is such a genius. He's been possessing the soul of an elf this entire time. Of course that's the reason why. There's no other reason at all. I hate Tabata sometimes. Why do you have to make this nigga a prince too? What the f? Anyway, Lumiere says goodbye, and he says goodbye to Licht and just everyone. And their friendship, in hindsight, was short-lived, but it was a pretty great one. So they still made it here. And Asta, says Licht, I have no words. Keep up the good fight. It's a shame I have such little time. It was a pleasure. The elves return home. But Radius is a hating ass nigga, so he brings back Paltry's soul forcefully like in the original, and then berates him. Now he has to stay and atone like he wanted to. But Radius ain't off the hook either. Y'all niggas gotta atone too, bro. You was not better than him. Y'all still are genocidal maniacs. But at least, Paltry got his friends, and so does Radius. As weird as their group is, their dynamic is just bizarre. William is happy that he's staying as well. They hug a little bit, and obviously Paltry apologizes. I'm sorry for killing your mentor. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all that. Then William pleads to Yami to be, taken to Julius's body. Because, he wants to apologize even though Julius is dead. And Yami says, yeah, you're a needy bunch today, aren't you? Follow me. Asta would rise into the air with Libe falling on his head, exhausted, saying that being a spirit is tough, and Asta chuckles at this, as all the rubble that was left behind by the destruction, within 3-mile radius of him, by the way, it all begins to rise up like a shit ton. And everyone looks at him like, bro, what the hell? And he looks at them. All right, come on. We're on cleanup duty. Marileona bursts into laughter with everyone looking at him in a daze. I mean, after everything, they're pretty depleted. Noel shouts, just how much magic do you have, you idiot? So you're gonna help me or no? Of course they do help, but like, bro, you a little too OP. I'm saying, goddamn, bro. Everyone pitches in all around to help people. And by the way, if anyone says that I'm making him too OP, his spirit tree spell is still active. He got magic from it. He has an endless cycle of magic. I made him OP, but it makes sense. It makes sense. No, the fuck it doesn't. All right, so Asta, Mimosa, and Owen are in charge of healing as they're the best healers. And while this is happening elsewhere, Lumiere gets to say goodbye to his descendants and also says goodbye to Nero, forcing her to say goodbye to the last ties of her past. It is a very heartbreaking scene, but she got to keep living on. There are better things in the present. For one, discrimination still exists, but it's better because she got the bulls. And, she going to join the bulls, you know what I'm saying? Thus ends the battle, and, everything's about to get fixed. Oh, and Julius is obviously still alive. So he gathers Asta, Mimosa, Noel, Sero, and Yami to talk about a few things. They go to the part of the capital castle that's relatively still intact. And he says, okay guys, 2 problems. 1, the Wizard King, me, is gone, effectively. I'm a bit weakened at the moment. And 2, surrounding lands will try to invade us. Either that or Asta's gonna die. Everyone looks at him like, whoa, hold the hell up. Yami in this timeline is completely confused as to why Asta would die, asking why that would happen at all. And Julius says that Asta clearly is the reason why they won against the devil. Aside from himself, being at full power, he's one of the strongest people here. Asta's become the last defense. And his name, it spreads so far and wide. I mean, people know you. Your wings also give you away. So you're saying that neighboring lands, they'll be aiming to move me from the board. If they... when they attack. Huh. Liebe? Yeah? We just gotta get stronger then, right? Sounds about right to me. Julius is surprised by how casually he says this, because, all other kingdoms gonna be coming at you, but it's very Asta-like to say, and he goes in with stride. But Mimosa and Noel are freaking out, saying that he cannot casually say stuff like that. Nero is a bit more calm about it, but they're obviously just like, hey, Brett, take this more seriously. And Noel says, you might die, idiot. Yes, might. That means I still have a chance. I have Liebe. I have you guys. This obviously makes Noel turn beet red as per usual, but his words do hold value. They're not going to let anyone just waltz in here and kill their friends. And their friend is still pretty strong. After all, he's literally the only one who still has enough mana to spare after this whole incident. They fought a devil. This nigga still got magic. I made him too OP. Anyway, right now, Asta isn't here to be a scapegoat because the House of Kira has nothing to stand on. So that trial shit don't happen. But they are going to need the support of another nation in this moment of crisis. That being the Heart Kingdom. Which is why Mimosa is also brought to talk about this, because she's been there prior to all of this. So she's going to act as a guide. So no, this doesn't happen because of a curse. They're finding about the curse later, but right now they're mostly doing it because they have too much attention on them and they need to protect their people. And Damnatia is not going to try anything with Nero, by the way, in case y'all are wondering. Because magic rules this world. We forget that so much because Asta is the main character, but the discrimination is deep. But if you got magic, like magic, people... My bad. Ooh, what the hell was that? I don't know if y'all heard that, but I just burped. My bad. Anyway, sorry about that. Magic in this world dominates everything. So he knows about Asta. If other neighboring kingdoms know about Asta's strength, obviously him, the person who represents the court of the Clover Kingdom, gonna know about his powers. He not messing with that. He's not stupid. So Nero officially joins the Bulls. This also acts as a form of protection for her. And she takes bird form again as she, Noel, Asta, Finral, and Mimosa go to the Heart Kingdom. They arrive by boat, so it's a bit long, but when they get there, the Heart Kingdom is as beautiful as Mimosa remembers and full of so much abundant magic. But Asta and Liebe think different. Yes, the scenery is beautiful. By no means is it like bad. But as a matter of, fact, because Elysia, the home of the Dryad, which blessed them, is nearby, somehow they feel stronger, but they also feel the power of a curse. They keep this to themselves right now and talk via telepathy, but they're also just catching up. To them right now, problems will just come and go. They just need to deal with them when they get there. So they row, and then suddenly a man walks in on their boat. He appeared out of nowhere. So he means business, and if he doesn't mean business, he's still a very strong guy. They barely noticed him, except for Asta, obviously. But everyone stays calm, surprisingly calm. And Gaja is surprised by this, and Mimosa even remembers him, saying how happy she is to finally meet him again. They're all calm, thanks Gaja. Too calm. Inside Finral's mind, however, we hear him trying to calm himself after hearing Asta's voice in his head. They all heard his voice telling them to go along with whatever happened, because Asta already foresaw what Gaja was thinking about. He can read the human heart. Mimosa then explains the situation and that they're on a mission to talk to the Queen of the Kingdom. Luckily, Julius did send in an envoy using a magic item, so they do know that they were coming. They were expecting them, so there's no need to get all murdery. And God just says that he will, he'll be happy to lead them there. That's why he was actually sent over here. He even gives them some fruits as refreshments, which is native to the Heart Kingdom. And they go around near the forest, and then they near a certain waterfall. Past that waterfall, they rise up a staircase of water, and it carries them over the forest towards the royal castle. And from the forest, people see them, and some even wave, blah, blah, blah. And then Liebe says, that's some insane magic. Your queen's something else. God just says, you noticed. Yes, our queen is very capable, though not as capable as you. The fairy, correct? Now with a spirit, I see. Asta sighs. How far has that spread? Seriously. I'm just going to hide my wings for now. As he shrugs, how he usually get rid of the wings is he just shrugs and they disappear. When he does that, the wings stay out, and he's confused. He still feels them. And he asks Liebe why they won't return. He answers him that when they're nearby the Dryad, they become unable to hide their true selves. And by them, he means him. He's not going to turn into a devil or create a dramatic scene, by the way. Libe is now a spirit. He's a full-on spirit. He's a mutated spirit, but he's a spirit. But near the Dryad, Asta becomes his true self. He cannot become human again. He just has his wings out. Okay, I have to meet this woman. Libe says, oh, she's a personality, for sure. Don't know if you're going to get along with her, but she's nice. Asta then says that he is a hybrid of human and fairy due to the blessing of the Dryad, as Libe just mentioned, and he tries to explain it to Gaja. And Finral asks just who are the fairies? Because again, it's only a fairy tale to everybody, except a certain few, like Gaja. Gaja recounts that the fairies are a race which existed long ago. Some still do, in hiding, and were born of the Dryad's love. However, they're usually just the size of spirits. They're super small. They're like Libe and Belle, but they possess immense power and control over nature, and they can read the human heart. That's why they're a very formidable race. It's not just the human heart though. They can read the heart of anybody. So they cannot be tricked. You cannot fool a fairy. They're super smart. That's why they also hide, because humans are really evil, low-key. Only a certain few, like Lisita, who they actually liked and met, are nice. Surprisingly, they even like Libe, which is crazy. He's a devil, but they can read your mind. So it doesn't matter what you are, it's your intentions that matter to them. They're not that kind of people. When you're born with the ability to read minds, you don't rely on appearance very much. You just like whoever has the purest thoughts towards you and acts in your best interest. So yeah, they don't trust humans very much, which is funny because Asta's a human, but again, not all humans are evil. And then God just says, when news of you spread, you can imagine how surprised we were that you were coming here. Suddenly, the spirit guardian gets a bit more serious. God is a spirit guardian, by the way, in case y'all forgot. It's been a while since Black Clover's been out. So he gets a bit more serious and says that from here on out, they will have to be tested. For what? They don't know. Asta and Libe and Nero are encircled by a sphere of water that then whisks them into the sky and towards the castle. Immediately, the others get ready for battle. And they ask why he's doing this. Gaja takes to the air and the clouds begin to darken as he starts to conjure his magic. As I said, you must be tested. Meanwhile, Asta in the sphere, forces a breathing space within by pushing the water that's suffocating them away. So they're still in the water, but they have air to breathe. And he asks Nero and Libe if they're okay. They are, and Nero asks, I'm assuming you already know what this whole plan that he has in store for us is? Nothing much. Like he said, they want to test us. But that's where I'm going to be ending this part, ladies and gentlemen. Mostly gentlemen, but you get what I'm saying. So, that was a pretty good part, in my opinion. I'm going to try again to, dish them out. The next part of New Order will be the final one, and the next part of Gojo Deku will be the final one. I promise you, I am working on it. It's just that I didn't think it would take so long. But that part is definitely going to be almost 2 hours, or maybe 2 hours exactly. So look out for that. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also hype the video, because that's a thing now. I don't really care about it, but YouTube put it there, so I gotta mention it. All right, peace. I'm gone.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget.